Hi everybody, it's me Arden Lee. I'm back with another video today and I want to talk about um, opportunities for turning difficulties or misunderstandings or even arguments within your friendships into positive growth opportunities. It feels like right now there is a lot of trauma partnering happening, which is a term that I've been using lately, where it's essentially to describe a situation where you have two people who really love and trust one another, but who are showing up in this space where they're activating each other's wounding, especially in a way that feels surprising. Like, um, like obviously, if you have a friendship with someone that you feel pretty confident in, you don't mean to hurt one another. And it feels like I'm just seeing a sort of like a bit of a trend of this kind of happening in a couple of instances. So I feel like that's something that's coming up in the collective. I want to address it. I want to address how best to go about it productively and how to turn that sort of that activated state or that trigger of like, oh my gosh, someone hurt me, or like someone I trust hurt me, or I accidentally hurt someone I trust, which in turn hurts me because I didn't want to do that. And now I feel bad. And now I'm worried about, making sure that I handle it well. And there's a lot of activation around that. And since that seems to be something that's coming up, I just want to share this perspective, which is that I'm inviting myself. I invited myself recently in having a couple of these instances that come up to really get out of my own sort of bodily activation around these things and use this as an opportunity for positive growth in my friendships and mutual understanding. So if you're someone like me, you may have had a lot of trauma around your friendships before. Abandonment, betrayal. Hey, I don't know what I did wrong, and all of a sudden everyone is disappearing. Hey, I'm on a personal growth path. I didn't do anything wrong by my estimation, and yet people are projecting onto me. This is something that I've talked about sometimes before as just kind of a natural. It's part of my trauma history. It's also part of my spiritual growth process that I've been transparent about. And yeah, I have triggers and I have fears around losing people. And I've talked also about coming into new friendships that I really, with people that I trust, with people who are more in alignment with where I am now in my life, with people who are more in alignment with good communication and healthy boundaries. Like I know where to give my fucks. I know that I am that I deserve to hold the standard of people who care about me and love me and want that positivity, and I've called a lot of that in. And, in many cases, it's getting to that point where it's like, inevitably one of us is going to fuck up, right? It happens in like the friendship where nobody ever hurts each other is probably a magical unicorn friendship that doesn't exist. So whether I'm the one getting hurt or whether I'm the one accidentally hurting someone else, and then feeling upset and scared by the fact that I did something that I didn't mean to do and caused an impact that I didn't intend, and making sure that I handle it well, whatever that case, that's really activating. And if you are someone who is on a personal development path and you are coming out of a history where you may have had a lot of friendships where people have made you feel bad or abandoned you or whatever it is. If you have those like kind of mean girls friendships in your past, or you've experienced a lot of abandonment, then, even in your new aligned friendships, stuff like this might feel activating. And there might be a part of you that, like, in your body, the first thing you want to do is get defensive and be like, no, I didn't do anything wrong, or I didn't mean to hurt you, so therefore you must not know what you're talking about, or whatever, or this isn't fair to me, right? Or you hurt me and I tried to explain it and communicate it to you, and and therefore it you know and it wasn't received in the way that I hoped that it would be. So now I'm feeling like uh-oh, what do I do? I put a need out there. I thought I expressed it well, and someone's hurting me anyway. And again, all of this is happening and it's unintentional, but this is going to happen. And earlier today, I have a friend that I worked through some stuff with. It was really difficult. It was really activating, and it kind of sucked because we had like made plans to spend this really lovely day together, and it happened kind of like toward the beginning of our day. And I was trying to explain how I felt, and I'm sitting there like in this, and I'm like, I'm trying to get us back on track. Like, I don't want to feel this way. I'm trying, and it was like, I was like, oh God, like this feels terrible. Like, what if my having a need just like ruined our whole day? And I interpreted what my friend was saying as like, well, I can't do that for you, so don't, you were wrong to have the need. And then when I acted as though that was what she was saying, um, then of course she got more activated because she was like, what? No, I would never tell you that you can't have a need or that I don't care about you. Anyway, um, so, um, so, so some of that is really unpleasant, and in your body you want to be like, oh my God, I want to run away from this, or I want to shut down. Or in my case, as someone who is shamed for having needs, like there's part of me that's like, well, I was just, clearly I was wrong for having needs, so I'm just going to shut up. And I remember like there being a point where I was like, I have things that I want to say, but the more I say, it seems like the worse that it gets. And I don't know what to say right now to make it better. And we eventually worked through it, and and it was great. And the nice thing about like being in quantum time and having friends that are in quantum time is that like as soon as you're back, and you're like, thank God, okay, that was really hard, can we have a hug now? Because you're like, oh, okay, the danger is past and it's over and everything is fine. And and that happened. And in that moment where she was telling me, she was like, yeah, there are a lot of people who are doing trauma partnering right now. And what that means is you have two people who really love and trust one another, but you get to exercise what it's like to work out your wounding with one another. So you gain that greater self-awareness, and you can work through it with each other, and you up-level your friendship, and also you gain more clarity and more self-awareness around yourself for the future, so that you can also deactivate that wounding a little bit. And I thought that was really cool because it gave this really lovely reframe that I was like, I took this kind of uncomfortable processing conversation that I had during a day that I was like planning to have a nice time with my friend. I was like, oh God, how did this go so wrong? And we were able, by reframing it in that way, in saying like, oh wow, we got through that. Look what a great job we did. And now we've up-leveled our friendship. We have a better understanding of one another. And hey, we just worked through this particular wound or this particular type of miscommunication between us. And now we don't have to do that in a relationship that feels less safe because we've done some work around it for ourselves already. And specifically the way that my friend said that it showed up for her and for me is she was like, we're not going to have to do this with our partners now, like with our, like whether partner or future partner or whatever, like, hey, we got through this one. Now we kind of know this territory. We're feeling this out with each other so that when we're in relationship and we're with people that, if we're dating someone and we maybe don't have the same foundation of safety as we do in a friendship that we do with our girlfriends that we really know, love, and trust us. Now we're kind of like, we're good at this. We got clarity around this wound. When this comes up in the future with another person, then whether it's another friendship or whether it's a relationship, but specifically because romantic relationships can feel triggering in ways that our personal friendships may feel a little bit safer. Because there's so much wounding around sex and romance and relationship in our society as it is that we take on as conditioning. It's kind of cool that we were able to look at each other and be like, oh wow, good work, trauma partner. Like, we got this one out of the way for ourselves. And I wanted to share that reframe with you guys because I think that's taking something that can really be a negative and can potentially tear a friendship apart. And if you have a friend who is willing to, especially in your moments where you're not deep in that processing conversation. If you're able to have a friendship where you are self-aware enough to say, hey, one of us will probably fuck up at some point, if not both of us. And hey, when that happens, can we consider this like having a conversation around it and having like our trauma? Let's call it what it is. Let's call it trauma partnering, and can we consider it a way of practicing and up-leveling ourselves and getting better at gaining self-awareness around our own wounds and really making this a team effort, like making this a shared effort. And that's really, really hard. And I just want to reiterate how much, even though I consider myself someone who is really pretty good at this, and I considered, my friend someone who is also someone who is very perceptive, even if we use different language, and we had a hard time kind of finding a common language that meant the same thing to us today. As difficult as it was in that moment, it's almost like, you guys have heard me say a lot, where Carl Jung has said, no tree can grow to heaven until its roots reach to hell. And there's so many opportunities where our wounding is, as Rumi said, the wound is where the light enters, right? So it's this way of saying like, hey, this could have been something that we could have allowed to become a much bigger rift in the friendship than it needed to be. And we didn't do that. We chose for the wound to be the place that the light entered. And how nice is it that even though this wasn't a pleasant experience for us to have in this miscommunication and this unintentional wounding that occurred, this unintentional hurt that may have occurred between us, how great is it that we use this as an opportunity for mutual growth, because we have this layer of trust in each other and in ourselves where we can have this conversation and come from a place of love and use it for our growth and our up-leveling. And I think that's really important. I wanted to share that with you guys. I know that there are a lot of people who are going through these kind of trauma partnering friendships out there. And I know that if I'm going through it on a couple of different levels, then definitely like the rest of the collective is probably going to have this happen for them in like 2 weeks. So hopefully, like, just based on the empirical data of my past patterns, I'm like, when I go through something, like, the rest of the collective is probably going to be experiencing it about 2 weeks later. So great. I hope that I make this video like just in time for it. I hope that this concept is helpful, and I hope that it allows us to preserve more and more of our friendships and have these inevitable mishaps and miscommunications become more and more toothless, become like the claws on them are getting like softer and softer, because we can realize that we have that trust and safety there. And if you still do have friendships where you are bringing trust and safety, or at least you're bringing trust and safety to the best of your ability, and someone else is still bringing, the shame and blame game, you might still be on that path where you're finding those friendships that are in alignment, and you might be called to release some friendships. Something that I said earlier today is like, hey, when I was still in the vibration of misunderstanding what my friend had said to me, I was like, listen, if I can't bring up my needs to someone in a friendship with me, if I can't express how I'm feeling around something and have them hold space for me around it, then that's not a friendship that I'm in alignment with, and she ultimately agreed with me. She was misunderstanding that I was saying like that she thought that I was saying I need a conversation right now. When I was like, no, I just need to know I've been heard right now. If you need to say like, thank you, I hear you, I can't have this conversation right now, but I'll have it with you in an hour, I'll have it tomorrow, then that's fine. So anyway, that was just the detail that we that we cleared up. But when we were in that, ultimately, if there is someone who is not showing up for you in a way that is in alignment with your friendship, then that may be a friendship that you're being called to release. That is going to happen on your personal development path. As I said, it's happened to me a lot in my own past, and I feel now that I'm getting to the place where I am able to really have that communication. But I want to put this out there. There were so many points during that conversation where I was like, is this something I have to release? Like, this is pretty activating. I don't know how I feel about this. But I stuck it out, and one of the things that she and I said is we're like, we don't give up. We really love each other, And despite the difficulty in how we're communicating right now, we're not giving up on one another. So I invite you to raise your own standards for your friendships, yourself that much. Try as much as you can to remain connected to your higher self when you are in your activated state, and to set the intention of, hey, we are doing mutual teamwork here. Even if it feels in our human selves like we're arguing, we are doing teamwork here to work this out, and for both of us to uplevel not only our friendship, our understanding of each other within this context, but also on an individual level. We are doing growth work around our own wounding and how it's showing up, by being able to mirror that to one another. And on that higher self plane, that is actually really an act of love between two people who really trust each other to work their stuff out with each other. So I offer that to you as an upgrade. I hope these conversations don't happen to you. They're never fun. But again, the friendship where nobody messes up is a magical unicorn friendship that doesn't exist. So just be prepared for that to happen. Be a team together when it does. And I invite you to think of it as an opportunity for growth and up-leveling around your wounding, rather than an unpleasant conversation that you want to contract from or avoid or get defensive around. It's a lot better if you can say, okay, hey, what's here? This is not going to be fun, but hopefully it will be helpful and it will be a growth process for all of us. Yeah, that makes it a lot more bearable, just knowing that there is going to be that light on the other side of the tunnel. So I offer you that in that spirit, should that arise for you, to be able to take it in that spirit of productivity, because it will absolutely transform the way that you deal with conflict in your friendships. So thank you guys for listening. I'll see you in the next video.